Hello, this is Jimmy Moyle with Head First Baseball. Normally around this time of year, we would do a college seminar, bringing in certain coaches and talking a little bit about the recruiting process and trying to give our players an opportunity to have their questions about the recruiting process answered. I'm helping along those lines. This year we decided to do it virtually and asked families to submit questions and then submitted those questions to a panel of schools that we were able to connect with. Throughout this, we wanted to find a mix of schools that would kind of represent different division levels. We have coaches from Division 1, 2, and 3, along with various in-state, out-of-state, public, private, different academic levels, and really to give our players a very broad view of what the recruiting process looks like now and things they can do going forward. So with that in mind, let's get started. The first question we had was, what should a player be doing at your level who is a senior, junior, sophomore, or freshman? And with that, we actually had some very good answers from our panel. One answer from a local Division I coach was, with the commitment to work through your senior year, you'll find it more enjoyable and growth than a student who checks out halfway through. A lot of seniors succumb to senioritis, and as someone who wants to play in college, you can't do that. You owe it to yourself, your family, your future professors and coaches to stay sharp until the first day of the summer. When it's time to play, help your team win. Then go back to practice, work extra, meet your weekly goals. Learning to help a team win is a skill like throwing a curveball. Separating your development work from competition will help you grow as a player. Don't look up the next year and begin serving your college team. Keep your head down because it's the most important team you're with is the one you're on right now. College coaches will guide and consult. Your current team and coaches are the team you're on. Help that group succeed. I think that's an important thing to remember, is that even if you do commit to a college, even if that's a little bit on the earlier side, whether it's before your senior year or the fall of your senior year, finishing the senior year strong is really important. Obviously, for players who go into their senior spring or even post-senior summer uncommitted, there still is an importance of sticking with it, getting stronger, refining skills, and knowing that one of the harder parts is right around the corner. And that was something that was really echoed by all the coaches on our panel, was to really keep working for seniors. As far as juniors and underclassmen, this is where it kind of diverged a little bit. Some of our coaches surveyed said that was a time that the junior year was one time when players should really start to bear down on colleges and be in communication and start to try to narrow down their list. Some of the Division I coaches we surveyed recommended starting that a little bit earlier. Said that's the process can really start as a freshman or sophomore in terms of whether it's learning about the college process, going to camps and showcases, it's kind of different things along that line. In my experience too, that's also been true, that the Division I process can start a little bit earlier, but it's probably never too early for players to really begin learning about the college process, and whether it's learning about different types of academic profiles, starting to think about what's important to them, and they can start to begin a list that way. And that way, even if they don't reach out to colleges right away, they still are able to be a little bit more aware of the process and aware of what's out there by the time they actually start. Another good answer that we got from this was just the importance of goal setting and the importance of kind of working toward your goals. And that's something that is probably understated too, but the line that really stood out to me was, develop academic and communication habits, begin setting weekly goals for school on Monday, and reflect how you did on Sunday night. This will build weekly and daily routines that will help you in classes and help as things get more challenging. Begin asking more questions, sharing more in class, and after class ends. And really, a lot of this goes into the balance that you'll have with coaches later on, where it can be more of a two-way street, and we want players to be very involved in not only their college process, but also their improvement process as well. A theme that we saw throughout a lot of these answers, and again with pretty much every coach we surveyed, was the importance of just commitment to long-term improvement of your skills, and how it's never really not important to get stronger, refine your skills, get better grades. That's always a priority, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you're not in high school yet, you're out of high school, whatever it is, always keep working and always keep trying to improve. A couple questions we got where there was a little bit of divergence from our coaches was, with COVID-19, will it become more competitive to play college baseball? This answer actually surprised me a little bit. One coach surveyed said that it was just as competitive and that he really didn't see much change in the way that players were recruited and how he saw the recruiting process shaking out. Another wrote that it was always competitive to play college baseball and do not use this as an excuse. And I think that's a valuable lesson to look in there as well, is that it's always tough. It's always been tough. It probably always will be tough. And, again, to kind of not fall into that trap. Then the other interesting response we got to that was that it was more competitive. And with roster stacking, it's become more competitive, especially at the Division I level. In terms of long-term finances, it may become a little better for families. Imagine 20% more players on rosters, most of them 22 years old. While roster allowances are bigger, the compression of the rosters have happened with experienced players. This will level off in the next couple of years, but what can you do now? Don't worry, work. Self-starters and good communicators will find their way. I think that's an important variable to keep in mind as well for our players, is that, again, certain things may be harder. Maybe for certain schools or levels it doesn't change as much. Probably isn't getting easier in a lot of ways from a baseball standpoint. But one thing that has been a trend, and that some coaches did mention to us, was that they are seeing a little bit more leeway from an admission standpoint and even possibly a financial aid standpoint. So even if making a baseball team or getting a baseball scholarship could be a little bit more challenging for the next year or two, there are some ways that it could benefit players from an academic and financial aid standpoint as well. Another question, a little more baseball specific, was how do you weigh offensive ability and defensive ability? And this is where there was a little bit of consistency and also a little bit of variance. One of our coaches said offense was more important. Most positions are offense first. Up the middle players need to be equally good on offense and defense. Also, one of our other coaches said that it basically depends on the position, and this was kind of a common theme, that players in the middle of the field, whether that be shortstop, catcher, center fielder, can be a little less offensive at times. Obviously, pitchers at college, most colleges use the designated hitter, so there isn't a need for pitchers to be offensive. And then another coach surveyed said that it really doesn't matter, and a player can't really have a weakness on that front, that they've got to be a strong player both on offense and defense. So kind of a personal preference thing. My take on that personally would be, as a player, you want to kind of take stock on where you're at in terms of your offensive ability and defensive ability, and be honest, get good feedback from your coaches on kind of where you are, and obviously ways you can improve as well. And then with that, kind of trying to make sure that it matches up with a different school. So, for example, if you're a very strong offensive player but you're weak on defense, understanding the coach's philosophy, recruiting and playing players at that position, and kind of use that to help you guide the process. Every coach could value different things differently. Certain coaches could value foot speed, certain coaches could value power hitters, certain coaches could value defense at a certain position or not. And so I think it's important to kind of know where you stand, have good communication with those coaches about what they want in players, and use that to try to make as good a decision as you can so that you're a fit for their program. Another answer too that is on a lot of players' mind is, what is the best time to attend camps and showcases? And this is one where I think the level tended to influence the answers a lot. Several of the small schools we surveyed were a little bit more encouraging of players to do it later, usually junior or senior year. For the Division I coaches we surveyed, they basically said it was never too early to start, and it can be a valuable learning tool early on, even if you're not going to a showcase or a camp for the sake of getting recruited and signing at that camp. It's a very valuable experience to learn to play in front of people, and kind of in that environment where you have to be on in a short amount of time with a lot of people watching. You don't necessarily have as much time to get comfortable or take practice swings or warm-up pitches or kind of have an inning to get loose, you got to be on it from the get-go, and that's a very valuable skill to learn, not only for improvement on the field, but also just from a showcasing standpoint as well. One thing that we did see too on this was the kind of hesitancy to encourage players to probably not hustle the country and chase showcase, as showcases can cost a lot of money and time. When players are ready, there will be showcases for them to attend. If you go to a showcase and play poorly, keep your head up, as most coaches don't always write down a lot about players who are not as successful. So that's a good thing to notice as well, is that I think for many coaches going to showcases, they're going to bear down on guys who succeed. And again, if you don't do as well, you probably won't get recruited from that showcase, but at the same time, it probably doesn't cost you, the way like going to a tryout and not performing well could. So kind of an interesting example of that, and just kind of different insight into what coaches look for when they're at events. The other question we got was, what is the best way to begin the college process? And this was where we also, I think, got some good answers from our coaches. One coach wrote, the best way to begin the process is to begin writing down your goals both on and off the field and looking at the process holistically from the baseball, academic, and social standpoint. Another coach that I thought wrote a good answer was, invest in yourself, get stronger, get faster, get more recruitable. Then go to showcases to get your feet wet and learn what to focus on. Consistent contact with coaches is key. We enjoy watching videos, receiving updates, etc., but realistically start to identify schools you can compete at. Discuss this with your high school and travel ball coaches and go from there. Another coach wrote, the most important thing is to communicate with coaches and work on those skills and really find a potential fit regardless of school and level, and be open to many schools from the beginning. The last question that we got, which I also think was very valuable, was, what do you look for in recruiting videos? How much do you value game reps versus practice? And I think this one, we got some good answers as well. I'll read a couple of them here. The first thing we look for in a video is, does a player have bat speed, foot speed, arm speed to compete at this level? This is the beginning of learning more, is to evaluate the tools. For those of you who don't know, baseball often refers to the 5 tools of hitting for power, hitting for average, throwing, fielding, and running. So often coaches may look for those tools early on in the process and then kind of move from there to assess some harder things to identify. It's important to remember that it's usually easier to identify throwing velocity or bat speed before looking at something like command of off-speed pitches or baseball IQ or other things like that are maybe a little bit tougher to see. Another coach answered, in videos I'm looking for athleticism, control of your body, bat speed, arm strength, speed, command of multiple pitches, defensive work, batting from different angles. I'm not looking for music videos. Nothing is wrong with adding some music and background and sound, but keep it clean and low key. The focus should be on you. I think that's an important thing to remember too, as players make videos, and especially with COVID creating some challenges to seeing players in front, there is a big increase in videos, and so doing that well and kind of having that be productive is an important element to your recruiting. Another coach said that he prefers getting practice video where it's a little bit more controlled initially, and then potentially once the recruiting process has gone on longer and he sees someone as a real recruit, getting game videos is more important. So I want to thank our coaches real quick for submitting their videos. That was definitely very helpful for them. Submitting their answers for our video. It was very helpful for them, and I hope it was valuable for all of you as well in terms of getting some of your questions answered. We're definitely happy to be a resource for anybody looking to start the recruiting process, or as you're getting deeper into it as well. Again, finding the best fit from a baseball standpoint, as well as academic, social, financial, and all the other variables that go into it. So this has been Jimmy Moyle from Head First Baseball. We, again, appreciate our coaches for taking the time to submit their answers to this. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you very much.